Yes, guys, I'm back. I'm back with another one. And I know it's been a while, but I have been waiting for my new PC to arrive. Finally got here about a week ago. So I've just been setting up my OBS studio, the charts and things like that. Just so it's all ready, so I can get a few videos out to you guys. So we're not going to start with any intro today. We're just going to get straight into it and have a little look at BTC and what's been going on. So what I can see with BTC at the minute is we are, looking like we are moving a lot lower. I have got levels of interest. I will show you why I've got them levels of interest in a moment. So I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to start with these. So on the daily, this is spot Binance. We have got the depth of market there. And we have got a lot of buyers around this zone here. But what can happen is these orders can be removed. You can clearly see we've got a big order there at 130. We've got another big order at 95. A little bit lower down, these orders are not there yet, but what will happen is over time, these orders will start to gather down in these lower areas. And, potentially we could have another pump. And, I know everybody's saying we're going into the bear market. My apologies, my shoulder's absolutely killing me after football last night. But yeah, people are saying that we could be going into the bear market and things like that. And that worries people. But we have lost the 21 and the 50 EMA at the minute. And we did something very, very similar here in this zone. So what I'm trying to do today is I'm just trying to keep you all stay level-headed. We've got, just do what I'm literally in a 10-year project with BTC. And my 10-year project is to just slowly build in spot, buying. And, eventually, I can probably see BTC going up to that big number, going up to these heavy numbers all the way up here, even further, and at the minute, we're not going to be able to see what orders are actually there. So I'm going to take the DOM off, depth of market, right now. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at volume areas where we've had a lot of sideways action in BTC. So I'm going to start at the left of the chart here around, I really wanted a little bit more data. So I might have to pause this little bit just so I can get a little bit more data. Just depends on how long it does take to load up. Oh, it's loading up fairly quick. But what I want people to realise is we need to stay level-headed here. Because, excuse me, what's happening is, everybody's calling for the bear market, blah, blah, blah. And generally, when you start hearing lots of fluff like that in these markets, it generally does the opposite to you. And then everybody sat there thinking, why? Why didn't I buy? Why? You can't have ifs and buts in this market. You need to be sure of what's actually going to go on. I'm going to load a little bit more data so I can go a little bit further back. But we just need to stay level-headed, guys. That's all we need to do. These big players, they're wanting to flush us out. They want us out of this market. So, we need to stay level-headed, stop panicking, stop listening to all these idiots on X. I'm on X, and, I do not come out with all this crap that they come out with. The worst thing about it is these guys have got hundreds of thousands of subscribers. I'm sat here with a measly, I can't remember. I think I've got 700 subscribers on YouTube, which I'm not bothered about. I don't mind you guys. You guys are my audience, and that I will tell you the truth. I will not sugarcoat anything. Many people in AO know me, and I tend not to sugarcoat a lot of things. I'll say what I see. Whereas these guys on X and things like that, they're coming out with all this crap and Trump said this, Trump's done that, blah, blah, blah. Everybody's blaming it on Trump. The market is inefficient, okay? The market is inefficient. And that's all that's happening at the minute. The market is starting to come back to fill some of these inefficiencies. So everybody thinks, yeah, it's just going to go up. It's just going to go up, constantly up. No, you've seen these prior cycles where we've been in these areas, you know. And I ain't got that cycle up, but what I will do is I'll load up the trading view page. And what you'll see is these prior cycles have major dumps. So we're going to go on to that now. So we're on to that now. We're having a little look here. So what we can see is, if we're just having a little look at where the original volume in BTC started to come in. So around here in the prior cycle. This is the prior cycle. So what we will do is, you all know I love volume profile. It's one of my favourite tools. So what we're going to do is, we're going to have a look at this volume here in the volume profile to see why it came back to this zone here and then absolutely moved off from that area again. So we're having a little look at this zone here, and what we'll do is, I like to put a box around the volume area. So me looking at the volume area there, so that is the volume area. So what we do is, we wick, we have a candle close on the daily below that area. So to me there, that's not really something that I want to be trading, because it's not, i.e. like that candle. If it was that candle there and that close below there, then yeah, potentially a retest of the volume and then a move back lower. It wasn't like that. It were two tiny candles. The next day's candle on Wednesday absolutely wiped them two candles out, and the prior three candles to that. So what happens is, even on the, you know, the EMAs, we're looking at the EMAs. People do EMA cross and all that. I'd rather look at volume, but I will show you, because I know a lot of people use it. So you've got the EMAs here crossing down. So what a lot of people will say, as soon as it drops below that 200, yeah, it's, you know, it's over, the cycle's over. So I know for a fact, in this cycle, people were like, yeah, it's over, Bitcoin's going lower, it's going back down to no, this and that, blah, blah, blah. And what happens is, it goes back up above the 200 EMA. So once it drops below, it stayed below that EMA for, let's have a look here, around 69 days. So that's the prior cycle, before we did have another pump back up. And the reason for the drop was for this volume area, because we'd not tested that volume area on the way up. So if we go to where we are now, let me zoom on. So what we're doing at the minute is testing prior volume areas. We have not tested this volume area here. So what I'm going to do is, I'm just going to take that off. So we've got a little volume area here, what we're going to test. I'll know we test it, you know, around 94k. I can almost guarantee that we are going to test that volume area, you know, before pushing back up into this volume area here. So we've got another volume area around this box here. So what I'll do is, I'll get this here, and I know for a fact that this volume area has not been tested. So we'll go along to the end of the volume. That is literally in line with the area of interest I'm looking at to buy. Literally in line with it. And then we've also got we've got another volume area, a bigger volume area of around here that we have not tested. But what we can also see is, around this area when BTC had that pump here, that tiny little volume area there, what I'm going to look at now, if we have a look at this volume area, let me just remove that box because it might be hard to see. So if we look, you know what I'm going to, I'm going to change the, so if we do this, do this, do this, just so we can have a look at the volume area. So if we look at that volume area there is a lot of volume in here from that one candle there. So if we look at the candle, it's 2.47k volume here. And then it absolutely rockets off. It never, and I'll show you this, it never came back to it once as it carried on going sideways. Eventually, it came back to that area, wicked into it, and held. So that box there that I've put on, that is a great buy area. So I know for a fact we have not tested some of these volume areas. For a fact. So I'm going to remove that box and we're going to look at where we are now, and we're going to see that there is 2 volume areas that we need to test, i.e. one here and one there. So there is 2 volume areas. We've also got another major volume area in BTC, and it is this zone here before the breakaway. So we'll put it to there. So if we look at that volume there, look at it. That there is major volume in that zone. So I'm going to be looking at this area as a potential bear low, bear market low. Okay, that's what I'm going to be looking at. And where we are now is, you know, we're coming to test this volume. So what I can also look at is, you know, this is another area here where we have, you know, moved away fairly fast. So we can have a look at this area here. And we know that potentially we're going to have a dead cat bounce here back towards that area there. So what I'll also do is I will put a line on that point of control. So this is my scenario. We do this, we tap, we may even, you know, we may even wick through. We may even do a wick and then drop back in. And then drop back in. Do this, test this area. Sideways, create another volume area, and then distribute lower. So I'm looking at something like this. In here, I'll tell you what, I'm going to redraw that just so you can see what I want to see. So a wick, back down, a drop, sideways, another drop below, tagging this area, a little push back up, and then the final push down. So what we'll have in here is I will then be getting my volume profile, and I'll be looking at that area, this area here. So around this area here, potentially will be another area that I will mark out where I want to see sideways action, drop, push back into it, and then a drop again. So I'm not saying that the cycle is over, it's all done, BTC is going to zero. What I'm saying is you need to stay level-headed where we are at the minute in BTC. So I'll go back on my Atos right quickly. So what I'm going to do is here, I'm going to hide these. Object list. Where's the one that I've got? Yeah, that one. I want to keep them weeklies on, really. Right, let's just hide them a minute and let's... Oh, I don't know where that was. It was in the middle there somewhere. I will remark that out at some point. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to analyse this here now. So I'm going to analyse all this volume area, what we've come down to test at the minute. So this little volume area here, this doesn't look like a lot to people. But to me, I can see that that is a lot of volume in there. I need to make sure that's the right one. Yeah, it's the right one. So getting this from this move here to here, make sure I've got the right area because I don't want to go on to the bigger candle. So I'm going to look at that. What I'm also going to do is I'm going to take the value areas off right quickly, just so it's not really I don't want to extend, but we could extend it. That's the value area, high and low. I just want to remove all these settings right quickly. So we've got the VPOC there. We don't want dynamic POC on. So looking at that area there, we can clearly see there is volume in that area. Yes, we can agree on that. So that area there is going to be tested. So what I can do is, I'll put my box over that area now. So I know my next level of interest, after we potentially push back up towards this value area low here, is this area here to start to nibble at BTC. Okay, that's what I can see in BTC right now. That area is going to be tested. The major volume area here, what I'm going to mark out, that's already been tagged. So I'm going to start the volume from here. I'm going to pull it all the way along to there. So this area now is another area of interest for me. Between 70 and 60k. That's another area of interest for me that is going to potentially be tested along the way. So that's how I'm looking at the volumes in BTC. So it would not surprise me right now if we get... Well, there's a lot going on there. I don't really want to confuse you with it because it is a bit technical, things like this, and it keeps moving my value areas. So I've got that value area low there. I'll put that POC back in there right quickly. So what I'm going to be looking at is, I really want to look at this area here. So I can take that off a minute. I can zoom this out. Take them EMAs off right quickly so people can see. So I want to look at this area here, because I know big volumes is distributed BTC in that volume area. That's one area that I really am interested in looking at. So I'm looking at that area there. Okay. So what I can see is there's a lot of volume in that zone where people have moved out of BTC. And yeah, a lot of it is news driven. I'm not saying that it isn't. But what I can see is BTC going up into there. So what I'll do is I'll get a screen capture so I can draw on it. So what I'm going to look at is potentially this sort of move, a little trickle into that area there. That's what I'm going to look for. The original VPOC's there, around that zone. So it wouldn't surprise me if we come in, tag, start to chop, and then distribute again back into this volume area. And then we'll do another chop in the volume area before we distribute, potentially come back up, retest, and then move lower to that area. So that's what I'm looking at in BTC. I'm not going to be out here now, you know, trying to buy right now. What I'm doing is I might have a little tickle. You know, I might put $150 into BTC, $200 into BTC, just something small, so it keeps me in the market. And then as we start to get lower, this here is my main target. This here is my main target in BTC. That's the main target. If we go lower, you know, I'm going to look at this potential area here. And I know people don't want to hear it, but unfortunately, this is another area of interest for me where volumes have not been distributed equally. And that's around 40 odd K. And that potentially, so we've got two areas we're looking at here. We've got this area here between 1760K, and then we've also got a potential bear market low between 41 and 43,500. So that's what I'm looking at. I don't really want to go into altcoins at the minute because altcoins are they're getting wrecked, and they'll continue to get wrecked because people don't tend to look at altcoins properly, and that's just how it is. Any lower than this that I can actually look at is around here. So what I'll do is I've got another potential box there, and that is between 27 and 25.5 area. So these are the areas for spot buyers to start to tickle. So if we have a little look at this, so you can clearly see on the way up, what we do is we come back, we test volume areas, and then we move off. So that's potentially what's going to be going on now. So, you know, looking at the volume area, this little volume area here, I'm going to show you on the way up. Let me just delete that a minute. So on the way up, that little volume area there, people are not going to look at that. People are going to be like, oh, there's no volume there. But if you get the box and you actually look at that, there's a lot of volume there. So we'll mark that box out like I pointed out on TradingView. And look at what occurred here. It came in, tested the volume, chopped, dropped back in, tested, and then fired. And we did something very, very similar along the way. There's one thing we never did. If we're looking at this volume here, this area here, this big volume area has never been tested. It nearly got tested, but it never, ever got tested. Even just getting that, you know, having a look at that volume area there. The top side of that volume area did get tested. The actual value area where all the trading occurred never got tested. So that's a potential area that we want to test. Even continuously going up, you can potentially look at that area there. So if we zoom in, have a little look at this area here. You know, on the way up, having a look, you know, we did test it and carried on up. Where we are now is, me personally, I think we're starting a downtrend. That's what I think. I'm not saying it's going to be guaranteed because, you know, there's nothing guaranteed in trading. So, yeah, there's nothing guaranteed in trading. You know, I want to engage with the community a little bit more. I'd love to see people, you know, putting a few more comments in the comment section just to, you know, tell me what you want me to do. Tell me what you want to see. And I'll show you. I'll show you what I can see. You know, like I've said before, I'm not like a lot of these, you know, proper sausages out there that all they're doing is shilling shit coins to you. I'm showing you real charts, real time, and you know, I'm showing you where these levels are, where we potentially are going to be coming and testing. So, you know, just keep that in mind. You know, get some, like I say, you know, comment below, tell me what you think, and you know, we'll go from there. At the minute, CVD still, you know, it's not really that much. If you look at the CVD there, it's pretty similar to this CVD. You know, there's not a lot going on. Delta, same. You tend to be getting your one spikes, which ain't a lot really. And you know, people will try and buy here. I know they will. You know, they think that's a good buying area. And you know what? Where BTC won, where it is now, it probably is for some people. But for me, that's not really a buying area. I'd love to see us trickle into here. And then I can potentially take a quick long in BTC back towards this volume area here. Sell my position. And then wait for us to distribute again. Back into this volume area once again. Take another sell. Back into this area. You know, make money along the way. So, you know, it's a bit like a hedge that you're doing. So, you know, you want to see anything else, whip it down in the comment section. I'm going to get off now because I need to send a BTC update out to the AO community. Don't forget, I've got links for all that, you know, for the AO Discord, buy me a coffee. I've got a few other links down there as well that you might want to take a look at. So yeah, that's it from me today, guys, and I will catch you in the next one. Happy trading.